Hi, good morning. This is Guru from Avi Networks. I'd like to thank all of you for dialing into the webinar today. The primary topic for today is a live demo in which we will cover a number of topics. The session is also being recorded so that in case you have trouble following along due to network connectivity reasons or need to drop off, please do visit our website at avinetworks.com. And you'd be able to see the recording at a later date as well. We're going to be largely focusing on Avi's cloud application delivery platform today, what we offer, and our integration with VMware, as well as a live demo for how we help you deliver applications with an optimal end user experience to your customers. The three things I'll go over. A quick overview of our elastic load balancing solution, which has support for application availability, SSL offload, DDoS mitigation, and a number of other application security and performance features for applications that are running in your VMware environment today. We'll also learn about Avi's real-time visibility and analytics platform that allows real-time application health monitoring as well as end-user experience monitoring without the need for any agent, so no changes to your application, and without the need to make any network changes. No networking, no monitoring fabrics, no span ports, nothing. You get amazing real-time high granularity visibility. I'll also show you a live demo of a Google-like search experience for network traffic. Sort of TCP dumps and HTTP dumps and so on, technology has now moved on so that Avi's been able to build this amazing experience where you can treat what is going on your network as something you can search through as simply as you search through the web using a Google-like experience. So these are three things. Will take about 20 to 25 minutes today. Some of my colleagues are on the webinar. If you have questions, please do ask those in the chat window, and they'll do their best to address those. If not, we'll get back to you right after the webinar. So let's kick it off. In a single slide, what does Avi do? We are a software company. We've developed networking software that focuses on layer 4 to layer 7 network services. Our areas of focus are elastic application delivery, which includes load balancing, application security, and application acceleration. We also do elastic application and user visibility and monitoring. And a big area of focus for us is our ability to offer you very, very cost-effective, easy-to-use encryption technology so that you can drive initiatives like SSL everywhere throughout your data center for higher security. It matters because today, some of the largest customers on the planet, some of the largest data centers on the planet are using this web-scale technology, hyperscale technology, to do all of these functions on standard x86 software in a very easy to manage, easy to consume, and cost-effective fashion. And that's what we bring to the enterprise and cloud service provider data center today. Our architecture is very SDN focused. I'll cover a slide on architecture where we'll talk about how we provide a single point of control and visibility to offer services no matter where your applications are or how many applications you might be serving. We'll also cover a little bit of our technology around how we've built in machine learning, closed-loop intelligence, and big analytics into the platform so you can get that real-time visibility into network traffic that I was talking about. So let's start with some details around Avi and the services we do. Today, most enterprises have either deployed visibility and monitoring tools which can visualize but not take any action. And they also deploy application delivery controllers or load balancers which do take action. They do provide application availability, but they are blind to the real-time user and network application environment. There's no connection between these two, and you have to really, the connection becomes the operator and the IT admin, which is time-consuming and complex. What Avi has built is that we've connected these two isolated worlds so that you have in a single software-based elastic platform both a world-class visibility and monitoring tool and amazing application delivery functionality so that you can deploy applications faster, triage problems quicker, and do all of this in a very cost-effective fashion thanks to our consumption-based pricing. Our software sits in the data center. It sits between the application and the end users who are accessing the application. As I go to my phone, for instance, and access an application that is sitting behind Avi's platform, the traffic gets load balanced to the application, Avi analyzes the end user experience and secures both the applications and the users. As the response from the application goes to the user across the internet to the user device, we can transform that content so you are delivering this application with the absolute best user experience possible. And we're also, in the meantime, analyzing this transaction, this experience, to provide you guidance around if there are additional steps you need to take within the platform to optimize the end user experience. This software that goes into your data center provides both application delivery and real-time application analytics in a single, easy-to-consume fashion. A little bit about our architecture. All true innovation comes from ground-up redesign using the latest and greatest that technology has to offer. For the longest time in data center, and certainly in network services, we've been constrained by very appliance-centric architectures. We have either hardware appliances that I'm showing on the left side of my picture, where we deploy these boxes, maybe 2, maybe 4, maybe 100, and we end up deploying and managing and configuring these one by one. And today there's a trend where we are moving away from hardware appliances to virtual appliances because we can deploy them faster and so on, but they fundamentally are the same as the hardware appliance. They're merely a software form factor of the same legacy architecture. We still have to manage all of these, each one of these one by one. They're hard to manage, hard to configure, hard to do capacity management, and so on. Avi has dramatically changed that. We are industry's first software-defined networking architecture for application delivery. We have combined the brains of these disparate appliances, these potentially dozens of appliances in your environment, into a single controller, which is key to our cloud application delivery platform. The data plane is composed of what we call service engines. These small service engines can be created on demand to meet the needs of individual applications in your environment. This architecture should remind you of other software-defined networking architectures that people are deploying today for network virtualization and other functions at the connectivity level. Avi has now taken the same very, very strong concept, very strong architecture, and applied it to layer 4 to layer 7. Let's talk a little bit about the components that we have in Avi's architecture, in Avi's cloud application delivery platform. The key component is Avi's controller. The controller becomes the heart of the system. This is what you interact with. This is what I log into in a couple of minutes to show you the demo. It offers self-service. It offers multi-tenancy so that everyone in the enterprise, perhaps a developer, perhaps an operator, perhaps a network admin, can get their own accounts, only see the applications that they are managing, only can perform the functions that they are allowed to function per the policies that you set. This provides a single point of control for managing every application, perhaps in your primary data center, your secondary data center, or even in the cloud. You could manage from the same controller applications that are running in on-premise in an environment that you control and trust, as well as applying application resiliency services and monitoring services for applications that are running out in the public cloud, perhaps in AWS, perhaps in vCloud Air, and so on. So for the first time, this controller can offer you a bridge that can help you accelerate cloud adoption, both on-premise and off. The controller is also the single point of integration with VMware. I'll show you this integration through a live demo today, but that's what really makes the platform easy to consume and allows us to provide elasticity and higher application visibility than what we would be able to otherwise. So at the beginning of time, you log into the controller, you request services for an application, perhaps something as simple as a load balancing service. The controller then talks to the VM management platform that you might have, let's say VMware in our environment, in our day today. It will spin up one or more service engines depending on how much overall throughput, how much overall capacity you need, or perhaps what application policies you might have in place, because you might decide every application is business critical in my environment, so they each need their own engines. So based on those policies, the controller spins up an engine in the data center, probably on the same x86 servers that you're running your applications on. The engines are merely a VM, and so is the controller. As traffic goes from users to applications and back, these engines serve as micro load balancers, load balancing the traffic, doing things like application security, SSL termination, DDoS detection and mitigation, and so on. But the really interesting part is this. These micro load balancers and service engines sit at such an interesting place in the data center. All the traffic from users to applications flows through the load balancers that we're deploying. We are then able to build in hundreds of virtual probes inside these microservice engines so that they can collect data on application performance as well as end user experience and feed that back up into the controller, which runs a real-time visibility and analytics engine. And that allows our user interface, our web-based GUI, to be much more than just a load balancing GUI or an application security or SSL deployment GUI. It's way more than that. It becomes that heart of the system where the entire enterprise can log in and look at how your applications are doing, how your end user experience is for those applications, and you can search through network traffic, triage problems quickly, and so on. And that's what I'd like to demo today. So let's make this a little bit more real, and over the next 10 minutes or so, let's do a live demo. You're welcome to follow along with me as I do this demo. I've got a very simple data center here in my labs. It is hosting a few applications. We've got an older version of Avi's website before we had launched, and I've connected that up to demoavi.com. So what's going to happen is if you head to demoavi.com right now, you, as well as the synthetic traffic that I have running in my environment, that traffic will come across the internet, across the WAN link, into our data center here. It will hit one of the service engines. So it'll come from the top, it'll hit one of the service engines, which is a micro load balancer in our case, and get load balanced to one of several VMs in the back, which will then serve out the internal website. As this happens, the service engines will also pick up a lot of telemetry data, monitoring data. They will then send this data to the controller for real-time analytics and monitoring. And we'll be able to track things like end-user experience, network performance, application performance, even infrastructure health. Over the next few minutes, I'll show you a number of things. So let's start and kick it off. We'll start with a very basic application deployment. Within Avi, at the beginning of time, let's say you just downloaded from avinetworks.com a single VM. That VM is the Avi controller. It takes about 5 minutes to deploy the controller in your VMware environment. It's no different than any other virtual machine you might bring up. Once the VM is in place, the next step is to bring an application online. So let's go ahead and do that. And as I do that, I'm going to log into the Avi controller. This, what you see on your screen right now, is our login interface. In this case, I'm going to log in as admin, but certainly you could log in as a tenant as well. We are fully multi-tenant ready, so your tenants can get access only to what they need and so on. As I log in, the system drops me into my dashboard, where I see all the previous applications I might have deployed. This dashboard becomes this amazing insight into how your overall data center is performing and how your end users are experiencing these applications. Because for each application in the environment, we are able to track hundreds of metrics to give a very deterministic score from 1 to 100 as to how that application is doing. So in this case, for instance, some of my applications are doing quite well. They're running scores of 97, 91, and so on, whereas some of the other applications perhaps are not performing so well. They're running a score of 70, which is a reflection of multiple things. The scores are a reflection of the overall performance of the application, how quickly is the application responding to users, but it also captures, is your application about to run out of resources? Is Avi's platform, our service engines, are they going to run out of resources, and is it time to scale out? They also capture anomalies. Is an odd event happening on that application where the access patterns are so out of the norm that the admin should probably take notice? And in that case, we give the application health score and anomaly penalty. So these health scores become this amazing way for you to come in every day, or perhaps after lunch you've just had your coffee, you're curious how your applications are doing, and if somebody's having a bad end user experience, you can log in, quickly look at the application, perhaps even select only the applications that are problematic rather than all the applications, hundreds of applications in your environment, and go ahead and debug those. Now, What I talked about, though, was how quickly can you bring a system online? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pretend like we have a very simple web application that we need to bring online. So I hit basic setup. This should remind you of probably the simplest load balancing provisioning you've ever seen. All that you have to do is, I'm going to call it my demo app. I will go ahead and pick up DNS. In this case, I've already configured a couple of DNSs on the back end. I'm going to pick up guru.avinetworks.com just to make things really interesting. So the DNS goes out. The FUDN picks out an appropriate IP address. This is the IP address, the virtual IP at which the application is hosted, at which the end users will access this IP address. I'm going to select some servers which are going to sit behind the load balancer and actually serve the application. This is where things get really interesting. Normally at this point, what you'd be doing is collecting a whole set of IP addresses and configuring those into the system. That is very manual, very error prone. But this is how easily consumable we've made it. You select a network on which those servers exist. That pulls up a list of all the virtual machines on that network. You can go all the way down. You can see I've got probably dozens of virtual machines just on this network, and probably thousands of virtual machines overall in my data center. I can now search for perhaps just the Apache web server machines that I want to put behind a load balancer right now. This is the application I'm bringing online. Select them all, add the servers, I'm done. You can bring a new application online, configure a load balancer, configure everything there is to do with bringing that application online and making it accessible in as little as about 10 to 20 seconds, exactly what I showed you. Now, if you want to configure all sorts of advanced features around SSL or content switching and so on, that's doable as well. But we've made the initial deployment so quick that within a few seconds you can not just deploy the application, but also get feedback from the system for whether traffic is flowing through the system. So that's the one quick starting thing I wanted to show you. Let's see one additional example of what Avi's platform can do thanks to our integration with VMware and thanks to the elastic nature and of the data plane. In this case, what I'm going to do is we're going to pretend we just brought an application online and the application is running into performance issues. How do you work around and scale the amount of resources that the application needs in real time? So let's go back to my demo environment. I've got an application I deployed earlier today. It's called SSL. It's a simple SSL application, and I'm going to show you in real time what's going on with the SSL application. So the health score is sitting at about 70, and that's because we are running out of resources. In this case, these are Avi resources that we are running out of. I'm going to show you what's happening on the throughput side. We're running a single service engine. That single service engine in this case is a very small virtual machine, but a very high performance virtual machine. That single vCPU virtual machine in this example is running RSA with 2K keys at about 250 meg or so, but it is running out of capacity. It's running at almost 100% CPU. Normally, what would have happened in this environment is this. This is your load balancer. It's running out of capacity. It's the middle of the night. You need more resources. Well, I'm sorry, but you're out of luck, right? Because it's a load balancer. What you're going to have to do is wake up in the morning, call your vendor, who then ships you a new load balancer, or perhaps you download a new software image of a bigger, better load balancer. You do a rip and replace, and you run this application now through the new, bigger load balancer. Here's what you can do with Avi. If you had enabled to, the system, when it needs additional capacity, would have simply hit automatic scale out. In this case, I've disabled the scale out because I want to show this to you live. But what would have happened is the system starts scaling out. Instead of a single service engine, it deploys 2 service engines in the environment. And now these 2 service engines start working together to offer higher throughput. And you can see this in this demo right away. This is core technology, core innovation that Avi has developed. And it is pretty amazing how our customers can go from maybe a simple test dev application that's running hardly any traffic to perhaps thousands of applications deployed on Avi, and the system just keeps scaling out from perhaps a few meg to a few gig to a few terabits of overall throughput for thousands of applications and hundreds of tenants. So whether your needs are the needs of one of the largest enterprises of the planet, or a very quick, small, you've got 4 applications that you want to bring onto the system, we can do this in real time, and the platform can scale in real time to accommodate those needs, whether it's the middle of the night or the middle of the day. But the best part is this, because it's an elastic platform and all the resource utilization is based on exactly what you need, your data center gets much more efficient. You're not over-provisioning hardware, you're not over-provisioning networks, you're not over-provisioning servers. You're only using the capacity in your data center when you need to. So here in this example, you've seen within about a second or two that I said scale out, the system actually quickly scaled out. We're running at almost twice the overall capacity we were. I could hit the scale out button again and it would double up again, and so on and so forth. So very powerful ways of scaling the system in real time. Now, while I'm on this screen, I want to show you one more quick thing real quick before we go to the next demo. You've noticed I've called this my SSL scale-out virtual service, and that's because this is actually highly encrypted data with RSA-2K keys. But this is not how Google or Box or Facebook or Twitter encrypt today. This is 10, 15, 20 years old technology. Today, they use perfect forward secrecy and elliptic key cryptography for even better encryption. So if you're the kind of customer where you're worried that, hey, what if somebody steals my private key? Can they encrypt last 5 years of data? Then you need to move to perfect forward secrecy very, very quickly. The problem is this. You turn on PFS on your existing load balancers, and suddenly your performance drops because these are load balancers that are optimized for last generation's technology. Watch what happens when I, instead of doing RSA-2K keys, I do better encryption. So I'm going to go to PFS with elliptic key cryptography, and I'm doing this in real time. And what the system is doing is it's moving from last generation's encryption technology to next generation's encryption technology, the kind of technology that would save you a lot of embarrassment if your private key for a particular transaction gets stolen. And watch what happened. Instead of performance dropping, our software, in conjunction with some amazing work that Intel has done on x86 CPUs today, our software can double the performance even further. So this is pretty amazing. Now with just 2 cores spread across 2 engines, we are doing highly encrypted data of nearly 800 meg of throughput for a single application. This has never been done before. This is typically a big, beefy application delivery controller or load balancer you would buy from a vendor and deploy tens of thousands of dollars worth of hardware in your environment. All of that in software, live, real time, that can be scaled out. Very, very interesting technology that's pushing the bounds of what we expect from our application delivery environment. Okay, let's go back to our dashboard, and I'll show you a few additional things. So let's just imagine time keeps rolling on. We've brought the application online. We've even scaled it in real time. And the next thing we want to do is just track how is this application doing? What's the end-to-end experience like? So let's go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to dig into an application that is sitting behind demoavi.com. So when you go to demoavi.com, perhaps from your computer right now, what's going to happen is you will fall into, you will hit one of our load balancers, the micro load balancers. The service engines, these will then serve out the content based on what it gets from the application. And we track in real time what's going on with the application. So let's see what's going on here. So on this particular server, in the last 6 hours, I can track the health of this application quickly, not just from the health score, but also from a perspective of what is the end-to-end latency like. So this chart up here captures the average client in the last 6 hours takes about 55 to 60 milliseconds to come across the internet, across the WAN link, and into my data center network. It spends about 1-2 milliseconds on the data center network, and then the application takes about 200 milliseconds to respond. And the overall data transfer is very, very quick. So that's our world. That's this application today. And the same information is charted down here on the chart as well. This is relevant because, as you probably know, anytime there's an application performance issue, the first thing that gets blamed is the network team. But now, for the first time, There's no other piece of software that captures this data, by the way, in data centers. But for the first time, we can give you end-to-end insight into the timing. You can very quickly, when there's a performance issue, you can very quickly determine, is it because of my WAN link, my internet connection? Is it because of my data center network? Or is it because the application is just responding slower? So very quickly, you can determine, do I need to focus on the WAN? Do I need to focus on the networking infrastructure that I have? Or do I need to call the application admin because it's an application problem? So that finger pointing between the network and application teams in real time, that goes away. This discovery we have to do up front of looking at network counters, looking at application counters, all of that goes away because we can very, very quickly assess what is going on in the environment. Let me show you one additional thing, and then because we're going to be tight on time today, I do want to cover a couple of additional pieces on our technology. So let's say you crack the end-to-end timing. This is super useful as you come into and look at applications on a day-to-day basis. I'm going to show you the other extreme of this. This was aggregate data. Let's say aggregate the application is doing well, but you've got performance issues with a single client. Your boss calls and says, hey, I can't access this SharePoint application or this web server. What happens? And what Avi does is, as I pointed out earlier, we provide an almost Google-like experience for network traffic. What's laid out on this screen for this application is that I've got a search bar up top. The search bar allows me to search network traffic, just like I would search on Google. I've got incoming connections at the bottom, probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of these connections, and I've got analytics on the right side. So for any given day, let's say in the past, if I want to see what's going on in the past 6 hours, what kind of browsers are accessing this application, then I know that Chrome and Safari and IE are the top browsers that are accessing this application. I know what kind of devices have been accessing this particular application. This is data that the network teams have just simply not had. So you can very quickly dig into who are the users, how are they using this application, and if there are performance issues, where are they? So I can search for how many people came in from iPhones in the last 6 hours and accessed this application. And as you search for that in the search bar, these connections come up. Now I can go and confirm that the analytics are adjusted to that. So if you click on device, because I'm searching for iPhone, obviously the only device that should show up in my analytics is iPhone devices. These are the connections. But are people using only Safari on iPhone, or are they using Chrome or something else to access my application as well? Turns out in this case it's only Safari. So you can get tremendous amounts of detail around what's going on, and you can work between the search bar and the analytics to very quickly do triage when you have performance issues, or perhaps to really deeply understand who's using the application in what way and how. And you can see there's a ton of detail here. A lot of that is covered on the website today. There's no way I'll have the time to go through all of that. But this is truly the next generation of network monitoring, not just counters and bits and bytes, but true end-to-end latency, true network-based application-level visibility. What is going on in my application? Who's accessing it? We can see if somebody has come into demoavi.com in the last few minutes. Perhaps I was able to convince one of you to access. It looks like I was. There were a few accesses coming in a few minutes ago into demoavi.com. In fact, somebody tried to execute /malicious on this particular application, and that generated a 404, and we captured that quickly. Let's look at this particular transaction. This is someone from the US coming in on an iPhone running a Safari browser, got to my data center very, very quickly and tried to execute a resource that doesn't even exist. We captured this, we made this available for searching, so you can come in the morning, you can look at the application, you can see what's really going on with the application. In fact, we capture all the way down to details like what kind of operating systems are these guys running, are the incoming users running. So you can identify patterns where if you're running into performance issues, are they unique to iPhones or desktops or a particular geo? Are only people from Europe having a problem and so on? So a very quick, real-time, live ability to interact with the application, interact with the network to get insights into what's going on just because we're sitting in front of the application, right? You might not even be load balancing in this instance. Some of our customers just put applications behind the platform without even load balancing just to get the monitoring data without having to deploy any agents in the application and without having to deploy any monitoring tools, monitoring fabrics, and so on. Very, very powerful way of bringing next generation tools into your environment. Our existing customers like Hitachi, like Mazzati and others, these are using these technologies today to effectively become heroes in their environment, to start debugging issues, to start resolving issues in a matter of minutes rather than hours and hours and hours that takes when you don't have the power of tools like this. I wanted to show you a couple of additional things. These are already as videos on our website, so I won't be able to cover these in the time that we have today, but let me just show you one or two quick things, and then I'm going to cover a couple of additional charts, and we'll take questions as well. So I covered the overall end-to-end timing. I covered this Google-like experience, but the one last thing I want to show you is this amazing ability to get aggregate data for your developers. Your application ops guys come up to you as a networking guy and say, hey, what insights can you provide me on my application performance? And suddenly you become the hero, because instead of saying, oh, your application did these many bytes and these many bits and really have no knowledge beyond that, you can tell them, well, your application is largely getting access from desktops and not too many tablets or iPhones today. The most common browser is Chrome. The most common operating system is Windows 7. And your home page is loading in about 1.5 milliseconds, in about 1.5 seconds, which is not ideal. We need to improve the resource utilization and overall performance of your application. And certainly your developers also have access to these amazing tools. You can give them their own account. They can log in themselves and look at how their applications are doing. So very, very interesting ability for them to track how their application is doing in real time, thanks to a tool that you as a network or an infrastructure or a VMware admin put in the environment. So a tool that is simple to use, that is quick to deploy, that can be up and running within minutes in your environment and can help you debug applications in real time. So let's talk about a couple of things that we spoke about, and then I want to give you a couple of very quick call to actions and next steps that you might be able to do to use this power in your data center today. Right? So we talked about the three big things Avi's been able to do. This is industry's first distributed architecture, the same power, the same technology that companies like Google and Amazon and Facebook and others put in their data center. We are now able to bring it to you for even the smallest of environments. Industry's first platform, first application delivery, first load balancer with integrated inline analytics, and industry's first highly disruptive pricing. This is unlimited throughput. You don't have to worry about, should I buy a 1 gig load balancer, a 1 gig monitoring device, a 10 gig monitoring device, a 10 terabit mount. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We do consumption-based pricing only on the number of applications that you place behind us. This is fundamentally different way of not just reducing the TCO, not just increasing the ROI of technologies that you put in your data center, but also, of course, have other ancillary impacts of reducing service outage time and reducing overall operational complexity. We have customers, we've been shipping since 2014, of course. We've got customers that are on our website, and many more customers that unfortunately I can't put on a slide today, but we'd be happy to talk to you about some of the use cases with them today. They're deploying us for their OpenStack clouds, for their VMware clouds, for hybrid cloud support, for making the developers more efficient so that their developers can get these world-class tools. Because we are multi-tenant, you can just give the developer their own engine, their own load balancer, their own monitoring fabric. So it's pretty amazing what we are able to do with our existing customers today, and we'd be happy to share some of this data with you. And the impacts are felt not just in technology, but in terms of business. Our customers are able to accelerate the speed at which they bring applications to market. I showed you 20 seconds to bring an application online. They're reducing the overall time that it takes to debug issues, and of course, tremendous impact on CapEx and OpEx. So what's my last message to you? This was very quick. There is no way we can talk about everything that we do. But if you are deploying a private cloud, a hybrid cloud, or if you have applications that are not quite performing the way you want them to, they are your problem children. They are the web server that everybody complains about, the SharePoint instance that everybody complains about, the application that just always seems to run slow. Or if you want real-time, integrated real-time visibility, availability, security, completely integrated with your VMware environment. If any of this is something you're running into on a day-to-day basis, then please give us a call. We've got a free application health assessment, a special that we're doing this quarter for our customers. Call us, help us understand what the application performance issue you're trying to debug, and we will help you within minutes deploy our platform, debug that issue, and you can keep the platform. We have a free tier that you can use for your daily debugging, monitoring, basic load balancing, and so on. Or if you don't want to bring, and it's just a VM, you can download it in minutes, and our engineering team can help you download and deploy. Or you can get a taste for the platform and try avi.com. You can also write to us at sales@avinetworks or directly reach out to me at guru@avinetworks.com. And if you do any of these, we can promise we can help your adoption of cloud technologies. We can accelerate that. We can help you provide better end-user experience for your applications. If nothing else, you will know who is accessing my applications, from what sort of devices, from where, and what are they really doing in the system. You've never had this kind of visibility before, and that you'll get with our platform. And we can, at the end of the day, we're simplifying your environment. We're taking what used to be complicated, multiple technologies, and putting them together into a simple, easy to deploy, easy to consume environment. So you can become much, much more effective on a day-to-day basis rather than struggling with a wall of complex knobs that you have to twiddle to figure out what to do. So if this helped you, I'd like to close for today. I do want to give you a quick heads up. On the 10th of February, we're doing the next in our series of webinars that is focusing on OpenStack, private cloud deployments, and how we are providing the next generation of application resiliency tools, application availability, security, plus application monitoring tools natively integrated within OpenStack. So if that's an initiative in your environment, or you have friends or family who's deploying OpenStack, please let them know. In 30 minutes or less, we'll show them something that's pretty remarkable. Their ability to bring in more applications into that environment and track those applications in real time. I want to thank you for your time today. We went a little bit over time, so I'm truly thankful to you for your patience. And like I said earlier, we'll be posting a recording of this to our website. You will also get a free copy of our VMware solution brief. It covers everything I talked about today and much, much more, and we'll be sending this to you right after this webinar. Thank you for your time. Really appreciate